Hey there, I'm Josh Plotkin, the Brazilian Gringo, and I have a confession to make. I've been living in Brazil for almost 2 years now, and I have never studied Portuguese during that time. So, in the 2 years that I've been living in Brazil, I have managed to not study Portuguese. I've never taken a uh, a book out and studied Portuguese grammar or tried to understand the structure of the language. I've just been lazy, really, in my study of the language. And, but, because I haven't studied Portuguese doesn't mean that I don't actually speak Portuguese. I do speak Portuguese, and, I'm making this similar video in Portuguese so that you can, compare and make judgment or whatever. But the way I learned Portuguese was without study. I never had any formal study with Portuguese. I did take a few classes that lasted like 2 or 3 days, but that doesn't really count. Never got any formal study with Portuguese. I've just been speaking Portuguese, and my goal from day one was always to speak Portuguese and to be able to converse with people and not to be a studied Portuguese speaker. So with that goal, my methodology was to go out and speak it and make lots of mistakes and to put the emphasis on communication and getting my meaning understood rather than having a completely correct Portuguese. I don't think it's possible to speak any language perfectly, even your own native language. I mean, I make mistakes in English all the time. And so by not striving for perfection, I was able to get out there and make mistakes and get my meaning understood even when I was at a very basic level. You don't need to speak perfectly to have your meaning understood. Like, if I say something funny in English like, if me speaks the bad English grammar, does me be understood? I think yes. I think you understood what I just said. You don't need to have perfect grammar to be understood. Pronunciation is a little bit more important. You do need to be somewhat close to what the real pronunciation is, or else it's just not going to register on their brains. And the flow of the language is important, but these are things that you can pick up by mimicry, and they're not things you can learn from a book. So that's why I've been able to go for so long without studying Portuguese, is because I was always just looking at other people and just trying to match my Portuguese to what they were saying, and picking up little words here and there. Like, I never sat down and tried to study vocabulary lists. I would always ask people, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? And so word by word, I built up my Portuguese. And it's gotten me to where I am so far, but I feel that after 2 years, it's no longer adequate for me to have my Portuguese where it is at. I need to actually study Portuguese now. I do need to know grammar now. The more that I'm actively speaking Portuguese and going and doing more complex things in the language, it's more necessary for me to speak Portuguese. And I think anybody who plans on living here, as long as I do, as long as I have, should speak Portuguese and speak it well. I mean, it's kind of rude to force other people to listen to your bad Portuguese when you've been here this long. So now I'm going to go out and start studying Portuguese and improve my Portuguese so that it's not so difficult for people to understand me. So I just had to get this off my chest. I don't want anybody to think that just because I am the Brazilian Gringo that I am a perfect Portuguese speaker. I'm human, and I make mistakes, and my Portuguese is not perfect. So just wanted to get that out there. And I want to hear your thoughts on this matter. Do you feel what level of Portuguese do you think is necessary to live in a country in Brazil? And what has been your experience so far with learning Portuguese? So leave a comment down below. Tell me about your experience with Portuguese. Love to hear from you. Falou.